Hey, Carm here with important news of the Automotive Institute of Science and Technology. This new school will reinvent automotive education as we speak. Everything they will bring to the table is preparing the students for a career in the automotive. Learn all about this new charter school. Now here's a taste.
And in 11th and 12th grade, they're going to work inside of those avenues, but the projects are still intertwined. So your technician's still working alongside of your engineer on a project, and your business person as well.
Wow.
So then they're constantly knowing what each other's doing. So that way we don't get the problem that we have right now. You go ask a technician, you say the word engineer, and every technician goes, oh.
Welcome, aftermarketers, to Remarkable Results Radio. Listen to learn just one thing from today's episode on your journey to remarkable results. Hey, Carm Capriato here, and welcome to episode 418 of the Remarkable Results Radio podcast, where we are talking about the new automotive charter school, AIST. I'm with Chris Chesney and Anthony Williams. Hey, have you planned to go to Apex this year? Well, I can't wait to see the cool new products and technologies at Apex. In fact, it's the number one reason shop owners attend. And also the training and networking make Apex a must-attend event. Be there November 5th through the 7th at the Sands Expo in Las Vegas. For information, visit aapexshow.com. This episode, recorded at Vision 2019 in Kansas City, brings you into the loop on the Automotive Institute of Science and Technology in Colorado Springs. Now, this new non-traditional public charter school will use the Pathways in Technology Early College High School model. Now, you may have heard it called P-Tech. It is designed to provide students the foundation they need to be successful in the automotive aftermarket industry when they graduate. Now listen to this. Students will be able to enroll in a 4 or 6 year program starting their freshman year in high school through their second year of college, and all publicly funded. AIST will offer students 3 pathways: automotive technology, business or mechanical or electrical engineering, and the learning will be completely project-based. With me in this episode is Anthony Williams, Special Projects Manager with Advanced Auto Parts, who had the seed of the idea for AIST, and he speaks to his dream becoming a reality. And also with us is Chris Chesney, Senior Director, Customer Training at the Carquest Technical Institute. The show notes page has the links to AIST and the key talking points at remarkableresults.biz/E418. This episode also tackles the career path for students and how to prepare them with zero debt. Hey, thanks for committing to learn about AIST and for investing your time right now to understand how important this program will be to the future of the automotive industry. Based on the plans and goals, AIST will build critical thinkers and problem solvers, a perfect fit for our high-tech $381 billion auto care industry. A warm welcome to Chris Chesney, Senior Director of Training, Carquest Technical Institute. Hello, Chris.
Hi, Carm. You have that memorized. That scares me.
I don't have to read it anymore. Maybe soon I'll have to learn another one.
Well, I hope.
And Anthony Williams, Director of Special Projects, Advance?
Yeah, or as some people have been calling me, Chris's protege.
Oh.
I'm his mini-me.
Yeah, he's mini-me.
What do you say about that?
Well, I've taught him everything he knows. Not everything I know. Trying to keep it safe.
I understand. Yeah, you have to lock that up. The reason you're here, he and you and maybe Greg Bunch had the seed of an idea to do something about education, specifically automotive, in our world. And you were an automotive instructor, and did you just get fed up with something and say we got to do something different?
I wish it was that simple. It was actually a dream. I had a dream about having a school that was completely different than anything I'd ever seen before. And inside the dream, I walked through the school. I got to see students engaged and working, and I saw multiple teachers walking around and engaging with students, and it was fantastic and amazing. And well, at the time, my wife was about 9 months pregnant, and I decided that it was a good idea in the middle of the night to wake her up to tell her about the dream, and I lived to tell about it. But I was so blown away by the idea, and we prayed about it and talked about it, and she said, you know what, I think God wants you to build a school. And I'm like, it's okay. So I started talking about it, half expecting everybody to tell me, all right, Noah, let's go build your ark. But it wasn't met that way. As a matter of fact, I was talking to Greg Bunch about it, and he loved the idea, and he knew people, so he told his people, which was Chris and at the time Al Wheeler, and flew him down. And he said, "Hey, I want you to pitch this idea to them." And I walked in there, and they're like, well, "What's this?" Completely kind of like off guard. Told them about who I was and about the dream I had, and Chris opened up this notebook and he starts pointing down, talking to Al Wheeler, and I'm like, "Oh, I did something wrong, right?" But after I stopped, he said, "Dude, seriously? Like, we've been talking about this forever. Like, this is what we're working on." And it fit exactly what he'd been talking about since, well, before I was even turning wrenches.
Wait a minute, are you telling me that two universes came together at that moment?
All good things happen that way, really. At the end of the day, I was pointing to my strategic plan, 5-year strategic plan that I had just finished about 6 months prior. Mm-hmm. And I opened it to year 5. And I had a list of bullet points there that outlined a charter school. And I just told Al, watch the screen up here. Anthony's going through all of these, and just pointed to each bullet point. He hit every one of them. And I said, this kid's been in my head. Something is aligning here. And at the end of the next day, Al and I went back to the airport. We spent a day with Anthony and Greg and talked about several things. But Al asked me when we got in the car, he says, "So what do you think?" And I told him, "Well, I don't know what you're going to say to this, but I have an opening and I'm hiring the kid next week." And we did. So Anthony's been in charge of special projects since then. And the special project was, and I told Al this, I'm putting him to work on the charter school, and we're going to build this. And he said,
how long ago was it?
It was not quite 2 years ago.
It'll be 2 years this summer.
Yep.
So when you got this offer, you went back, whispered to the wife, touched her belly where the baby was, and says, "We have to make a decision here."
It wasn't quite that easy. The dream actually happened when we were pregnant with our first child. So it actually took a few years before it got to Greg, and then Greg took it up. And when it got to Greg, all of a sudden,
I got the timeline better now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a couple of years went by where there's nothing. There's no rain. So, but I kept talking about the dream and the excitement, and everybody agreed that it was a great idea, and everybody said, "Well, there's no way you're going to pull it off, though. There's no money in education. There's no way you're going to be able to flip an entire education model. We've had this for hundreds of years. You don't just create a new style." And I said, "Well, don't know unless you try, right?"
Before you finish the story, were you ever in sales?
I was.
Oh, okay. Because you got to have some of that.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, keep going.
So, but a few years had passed. So my daughter, that was in the belly when I had the dream, she's out, and she's a few years old now. And when he came down, my wife was actually pregnant with our second child.
I love it. Great story. Yeah.
So
there's the dream, then there's the reality. I see. Okay.
So when I went back home, she was actually taking a nap at the time, and I was too excited not to.
Wait a minute. You named the baby Charter, right?
No.
Okay.
But so, like I said, my wife is actually the brains behind education, and I was teaching. I was a technician that went into sales, and I still dabbled. And I wanted to do more. I wanted to give back. I wanted to work with at-risk youth, and I did. And I was good at it. There's a natural talent there, and I was teaching them work skills, and they kept looking at my desk and seeing cars, and there's, "Oh, do you know about cars?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I can teach you a thing or two." And so we got to the point where I said, "Well, you bring in your homework. We'll work on getting your grades up, and as a result, I'll help you out, and I'll teach you some things in the garage." And one thing led to another, and I couldn't really help them with their schoolwork because I didn't understand what their schoolwork was asking, but I understood the concept they're supposed to learn. But I didn't understand how to relate it to how the book had it, so I would take them into the garage, and I'd say, "Hey, I don't know what that's saying, but this is where you're going to actually use it, okay? We need to work on fractions. Hey, look at it. We have sockets. We're going to work on putting these in order." And we do little things like that. And we work on geometry, like at suspension components. And all these students, their grades started going up. So the school district found out about it, and they said, "Hey, do you want to come teach?" okay, I don't know anything about teaching. And a little part of me was like, you mean be stuck in high school, the place I hated? But I did. I started teaching. And so, like I said, when I was teaching and I had the dream and I started talking about it, it was with other educators. It was with other technicians. Everybody loved it. And when it ran up the flagpole, I was a little sad about getting out of the classroom. But on the other side, I go, man, this is an opportunity to create a new classroom that both fits what teachers want, what students want, and what the industry needs. I was like, it's worth it. And since then, Chris he's been so amazing about allowing me to go and study everything. I say, Chris, there's a school here I want to go see. This is what they're doing. He says, let's go study, go see them, go visit. And I call up places and I get all the information. So everybody says, well, what school did you study this from? Or what school did you get it from? I said, what school did I not get it from? And the biggest thing that I kept telling people is they're excited about this new school, and it's not new. Here's the thing is it's already out there. It's already in education, but it's all in pieces. So there's a school here doing this, there's a school there doing this, and there's some amazing schools, even in our own backyard. We got to go to Wheat Ridge High School if you ever get a chance.
Oh, well, let me tell you about that story. 2 years ago at Apex, and you may not know this, I interviewed 8 kids from the STEM class in my studio at Apex. And let me tell you, Chris, you may not know this, but at the end of that thing, I was all choked up. I was so impressed.
They're amazing. And it's those schools, and he's not the only one that has those schools. So in Cherry Creek, they have a new innovation center that they're building that's all STEM focused. And so it's not new. It's a movement across the nation. Yeah. But one of the things I get frustrated with, and I tell people in building this school, we don't have an automotive program at the Automotive Institute of Science and Technology. And they say, what do you mean you don't have an automotive program? I say, we don't have a class for automotive. Right now, the biggest push is to create these standalone STEM programs. Let's teach engineering. Let's teach these careers. And they put them in a silo on their own. And our thing at the school is that all of education is career preparation. You don't have a career preparation class. All of it should be. So instead of taking little bits and pieces and trying to put them into the automotive program, we took the automotive program, we broke it apart and spread it over everything.
In the podcast opening, I mentioned Apex. Now, let's quickly clarify. Apex is not the same as the SEMA show, and I think you know that. Although both are held in the same week in Las Vegas, at the SEMA show, you'll see cool specialty products, and I get it. I've been there. Wow, tons of fun. But if your livelihood is keeping your customers' vehicles on the road, and that's how you earn your living, then you have to attend Apex, because Apex is the business side of the aftermarket. Now, Apex is where you can see, feel, touch, and talk the business of the aftermarket. Everything you need is under one roof, including new tools and equipment, advanced training, hands-on demos, and one-on-one meetings with your suppliers and manufacturers, needless to mention the networking you have with your peers. And with your Apex badge, you can also visit the SEMA show. One badge does it all. So plan now to attend Apex, Tuesday, November 5th through Thursday, November 7th at the Sands Expo in Las Vegas. Hey, to learn all about Apex and plan your visit to Industry Week, visit aapexshow.com. Okay, so you're really reinventing automotive education.
We are really reinventing it. We're taking what everybody has started to do, and we're putting it all together into the next evolutionary step. It's where education's already going. The hard part is it's a scary next step, and it's an expensive next step. And that's what the hang-up is right now. Everybody knows that it's where we need to go. We need to break apart. So in the school model, nothing's in a silo. You don't have your English class, your math class, your science class anymore. Now you go in and you have a project. And those projects are what we're building now. And inside of that project, your English lessons will be taught. Your science lessons will be taught. Your math lessons will be taught.
Give me any idea of the topic of the project.
So the one we're actually talking about here, and we just did this at the Educator Think Tank, there's a CSI project. So all the students, everybody's all about CSI, right? You have CSI New York, CSI Miami, CSI Las Vegas. So using that desire, that sexiness of CSI, we created a CSI project. So we're going to work with the local police departments and the fire department, and they already go out to high schools and they showcase car accidents from texting and driving. Drive home to the students, hey, we don't want you texting and driving. Look what can happen. We're going to take that to the next step. We're going to take a few of those accidents, recreate them on the property, and then have the students go out and figure out what happened in the accident. So we'll redraw out the skid marks. We'll redraw out, even to the part depending on how far we can go. But even like staging like dummies, and if there's anybody ejected from a car or anything like that, they have to learn about the safety constructs of the car, right? So they're going to go out and they have to figure out what happened here. They can go out, they're going to look at it, and they're going to try to collect as much information as they can until they get to a point where they can't do anymore. And they have questions. And when they have those questions, that's when they get to come and they get to ask the teacher, I need help figuring this out. I see the skid marks are this long. I see that the impact crushed this far. How do I figure out how fast it was going? So now instead of sitting down trying to tell students what they need to know, you're giving them a problem and you're having them come to the teacher and ask.
It's like, what the hell do I need algebra for?
Exactly.
Right?
This is what's for.
So we're letting them go and find the problem so that they have to come and ask the teacher to teach them algebra. Right now we tell them, you have to go to algebra class, you have to listen, you have to pass this test. We're saying, no, you go out, you get stuck on this problem, you get stuck trying to figure out a solution here, and then come to us when you need help.
So are you kind of designing case studies, Chris? I mean, is that how you look at it with this whole accident idea?
Yeah, to a certain point. You create use cases or opportunities for them to learn, but Anthony puts it best. We're not trying to tell them what happened. We're not trying to teach them all the concepts around how that accident in this example happened. We're trying to let them go gather the information and get to the point where they ask questions. The best problem solvers in any industry are the people that can ask the right question. And based on the answer they get, they ask the next right question. And this not only creates an environment where they learn by going to the teacher and asking the teacher to help me solve this problem. They're not going to the teacher and say, teach me algebra. For God's sake, they're never going to say that. But they're going to go to the teacher, teach me how to solve this problem.
I need to figure this out.
So at the end of that conversation, what we've created is a set of skills that these students will have that create problem solvers, critical thinkers. And with the technology that we have in front of us, the complexity of the vehicle, you have to have tremendous problem-solving skills to solve especially the technologies that we're seeing, the data networks and the AIST systems and so forth. These kids will be able to naturally ask the right questions, gather data, ask the right questions, and know where to go find help to get that answer.
Okay. I love it. How do I learn how to do brakes?
So the natural progression within the school. So in 9th and 10th grade, we don't teach technicians. Everybody kind of gets hung up on this, and Deborah and I, we had our first spat about the school on the name because she didn't want to put automotive in the name, and I fought, and I'm like, no, this is all I know is automotive, so this is what we're going to focus on.
By the way, I love the name.
Right, so do I.
I don't think we've covered it enough. So could you tell us what it is?
The Automotive Institute of Science and Technology.
That's powerful.
And Deb likes it now too.
Oh, good.
She loves it now. But some of the ideas, everybody hears automotive and they think, oh, okay, how do I teach them how to be a technician? You're going to have a whole school of technicians. And I say, no, we teach the automotive industry. So here's the thing is, so Carm, right now, would you consider yourself part of the automotive industry?
I do.
There's no dirt under your nails. There's no grease on your hands right now.
I figured it out. Lava.
So here's the thing: is there's research avenues, there's sales avenues, there's so much more. A lot of, like me, I love being a technician. I love turning wrenches, but that's not the end all. And there's students that have come through my class that love the automotive industry. They love cars, but they don't want to be a technician, especially when they start trying to get underneath the dash. They're like, this is dumb. Who would want to do this for a living? And I go, well, me. But those same students are amazing. And so they go behind the parts counter, and their desire and their love for automotive, they keep learning. They learn more about the systems. And now they're the students that can be behind the parts counter. And instead of just asking 2-wheel or 4-wheel drive when you're asking for wiper blades, they're able to ask the questions that truly need to be asked. So the do-it-yourselfer comes in and says, hey, I'm doing a brake job. And instead of just adding the one-ups, oh, hey, you're going to need some of this grease here, this lube here, you're going to need some brake fluid. Instead, they're going to be able to talk about, hey, when you look at your system, you might want to take these strips and test your brake fluid. One of the things they do in the shop is they test your brake fluid to see if there's any metals or any coppers that are in there.
Wow. It's chemistry right there.
It is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh. So they learn about metallurgy, they learn about friction materials, and then they don't have to go and change those parts all the time. They can go and do something else. They can go behind the parts counter. We have a business pathway, a technical trades pathway, and an engineering pathway. And so all the students in 9th and 10th grade, they get to work inside of all of it. They get to learn all the different components and all the different aspects of all the different career opportunities. In 10th grade, at the end of 10th grade going into 11th, they choose their major. Where was their skill? Where was their passion at? Did they like the business aspect more? Did they like the skilled trades part more? Did they like the engineering part more? And so they choose, and in 11th and 12th grade, they're going to work inside of those avenues, but the projects are still intertwined. So your technician's still working alongside of your engineer on a project, and your business person as well.
Wow.
So then they're constantly knowing what each other's doing, so that way we don't get the problem that we have right now. You go ask a technician, you say the word engineer, and every technician goes, oh. Right? But if you have the technician and engineering learning together, and they get to talk together and they get to see each other's struggles, maybe we won't have engineers that put, a starter underneath an intake manifold. Mm-hmm. Maybe they'll go, hey, you know what? I had to see a technician struggle with this before. Yeah, let's put this easier to access. Hey, let's take this oil filter and let's put it standalone over here where it's easy and doesn't drip over everything. Let's move it away from this big hot, piece of metal. So it's kind of that idea. If they all get to work together and they all get to see what each other does, then when they get out in the real world, they get to see, there's not the front house, back house. This is my part of the job. This is your part of the job. Together, we get the job done. So
to answer my question, how do you get to learn a brake job? Does that happen in post-secondary?
In the 11th and 12th grade, if you're in the skilled trades job, you're going to get all of your ASC certification training.
Okay.
That's when you're getting your focused area in skilled trades.
Yeah.
And so you may be working on brake jobs, replacing brakes and talking about friction material alongside an engineer who's looking at the fatigue and the wear. And the engineering side may be coming up and figuring out with ways to help that technician figure out, hey, is there a faster way? Is there a tool I can design to help you do this faster? The technician is practicing learning how to do it correctly every step of the way, and they're practicing again and again and again. And in that 11th and 12th grade, they're actually going to be working on people's vehicles. They're going to come into the school.
Because I interviewed the STEM class from Wheat Ridge High School, it kind of reminds me of what he just said. They had all these CAD. They were building their own stuff. I mean, can you imagine that somebody in the engineering department would design a tool and they would make it?
Oh, yeah. We envision having 5-axis CNC machines, 3D printers, technology that allows them to create a special tool or to remedy a design flaw.
And when you talk about groups like Wheat Ridge, and the one that I met today was Mind Drive. Have you ever heard of Mind Drive?
I just heard that. I've got to check that out.
Oh, you have to. That is a phenomenal program they have. Is just absolutely amazing. And I'm going to take Chris. Him and I are going to go visit because I think it's just like Wheat Ridge, but I think it's on Wheat Ridge on steroids. But it's proof because people ask and they're like, well, students aren't going to be able to do this. No, they can. And not only can they are. It's giving them the opportunity. So, like I said, we're not doing anything new. We're taking what's already being done and we're taking it to the evolutionary next step.
You're challenging our kids to get out of, well, it's not a comfort zone, but I think you're actually letting them use the brain that they were given.
Absolutely.
And to be challenged in the creativity of it all and the team play. I love the team play.
The problem with industry today is believing that kids can't do things, and it's not that kids can't do things, it's we're telling ourselves that they can't. And Wheat Ridge is the perfect example of that. Chuck Sprague, the leader of that group, the instructor, the freshmen that enter that program, their first class is sitting in a lab with a computer, learning how to run Inventor, which is an element of Autodesk, 3D CAD design.
Oh, no.
And they're designing next year's vehicle and then modeling it before they go to their sophomore year, where they start going in and constructing the vehicle for the next year's competition in either the Shell Eco Challenge or one of the NASA competitions. And these are freshmen. You look at them funny, and you think they're 10-year-old kids. And these kids, these young students are performing at a level that I couldn't imagine. And so when I've been there 3 times, and I'm wowed every time I walk in the building. And so when we envision what we're talking about for our school, don't say they can't, because they can. It's us who thinks they can. Yeah. So our biggest challenge is, as leaders in the industry, is to not think in that mindset that students can't pick up this kind of level of technology, especially on the engineering side of things, because they can. I can't wait to get the school open, because the innovation that they're going to create is going to wow all of us.
So I think we may have piqued our listeners' interest about Wheatridge and STEM. So I just looked up the episode. Yep. It's episode 279. Go to the website or scroll through your subscription, and you owe it to yourself to listen to 279, Wheatridge High School STEM program. It'll tug at your heart, and it'll start letting you realize the dream that Anthony has, the vision that Chris has on where this goes. Okay, guys. Anthony Williams, Chris Chesney with me. We're talking about the new school, AIST, Automotive Institute of Science and Technology, that Debbie likes. Now, you said 9 through 10 they pick a major.
In 9th and 10th, they get to explore all of it. In the 11th grade, they pick their major.
11th and 12th, they pick the major. And what would the major choices be?
So business, skilled trades, and engineering.
Got it. Now, I read somewhere that you're working with P-Tech, so the money for the investment back into post-secondary is what, non-existent?
Well, P-Tech is Pathways to Technology Early College High School. It's a standard that was created. Congress passed that or enabled that through legislation.
But isn't there money attached to that?
Well, it's all a partnership between public school district, a community college vocational program, and industry.
Okay, all right.
So in our case, School District 49 in Colorado Springs, in Falcon, Colorado, is the public school district. We have a charter agreement with them. We have a contract with them. We have an opening date of fall of 2020.
My God.
And so this is not an idea any longer. It's not a dream any longer. It's real.
It's a commitment.
It is a commitment. We got to be the bacon. So, and that's so apropos when we're at Vision. So Anthony hasn't been to Vision. So tomorrow morning he will see the bacon and be the bacon. So
I love the bacon.
But
here.
what this allows us to do is, because we're a new idea and a new model, we have to build the first facility.
Yeah.
And that's some of the work that we're working on as we speak. But because the curriculum concept is different, and that's being built out right now. We had our first meeting a month ago.
But don't you have to go through Colorado approval of their education system for all of this?
We have to meet the standards.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
We do have to meet all the Colorado academic standards. So all of our projects have to align to those standards. The district is the entity that will approve our curriculum. And so the district is the one that gets to say so. The district gets their authority through the Colorado Department of Education. So it's not a direct line, but yes, we do have to do everything that every other high school is giving their students.
You learned all this in what, a short year and a half?
My wife says that I have a very steep learning curve.
And this is more than a full-time job.
Yeah.
No pressure. You got to open the school in 2020.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing is I think that it's more than a full-time job, but I feel like I still only work about 50% as much as Chris does, so I still feel like a slacker every day.
Just because he's your boss, you don't have to say that. Be nice.
He's more than my boss. He's my mentor, and I tell you what, I every day I try and I strive to be the man that he is, and it's very hard to find in these days somebody to look up to in the industry. There's a lot of great technicians, but there's not a lot of great leaders and a lot of great mentors, and I'm just blessed that, God brought Chris into my life, and it's been a whirlwind. He gives me the opportunities to stretch my legs and run, and he also holds the reins and tells me, "Whoa, hold back a little bit."
Well, we need that every once in a while.
Exactly.
And I admire Chris too. Thank you for being here, by the way.
I appreciate that.
Articulation agreement with the school and post-secondary. You got that in order?
So we're working on that right now. It's not signed, but we've been working with Pikes Peak Community College in Colorado Springs from the very beginning. So they were one of the first that I reached out to before this even started getting running, and they love the idea. They love the P-Tech model. One of the things you talked about earlier, doesn't it come with money? There's not enough money in education to make this school happen. And this is why it hasn't happened. It's not because nobody has thought of it. It's not because nobody wants it. It's because the money's not there. And that's actually the part with P-Tech that a lot of people are struggling with. The idea is the partnership with industry. Industry needs a higher level, higher caliber of entry-level workers, of entry-level employees. But we don't have the money to meet their needs, so we need their money. But more than just their money, we need them at the table. So they have to be part of every step of this curriculum build so that we are training these students to be workforce ready, truly workforce ready, because the workforce built the curriculum. And that's the biggest key right there, is that partnership. Everybody always asks industry for money. I mean, I feel like every time I go out with Chris somebody has their hand out, like, we need money for this.
Yeah, but wait a minute. But aren't you doing that? Aren't you fundraising for this?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we're going to, because that education.
What do you mean
doesn't
you're going
have it.
to? You've got less than a year. I mean, I know you're putting up a temporary facility, am I right?
Right.
Yep. And you're talking about brick and mortar happens in 2021?
Yep. That's our goal.
Okay. You got the land?
We're actually working on that currently. So it's a long process. There's a lot of moving parts. So the industry has the money and everybody's excited about it. In order to move money around, apparently you have to have every I dotted and every T crossed. So we're working on a feasibility study. So we're showing the entire industry, this is what we're putting together. This is everything, making sure that the industry says, hey, this is exactly what we need. We get it on paper and they go, okay, now we can throw money at this thing. And that was the hang up, but it's been a learning process as we go. Every step of the way, it's all right, here's a hurdle, and then we attack it. We run into a problem, and sometimes we hit the books, sometimes we find other people to help us.
Exactly.
And which is a great model for what we're doing with the school. Exactly what we're talking about. We create a problem, the students run into a problem, then they have to go find their answers. Mm-hmm. And so we keep building towards the school, and every time we run into a problem, guess what? We reach out and we have to go find the answers. We have to go find the teachers. We have to go find the people. And our industry has some amazing people that have stepped forward and they have the wisdom. I actually just met a gentleman who also already is friends with Chris Chesney. Apparently, if you guys didn't know, Chris Chesney has over 5 million friends. Okay. But Gary Gomes is his last name.
Gary Gomes.
So I've been struggling with the political aspect of the board operations and how the school districts work, and trying to figure out how that all goes together. And as I prayed about it, and then all of a sudden this gentleman steps forward and we get to talking, and not only is he a technician and he owns a shop, he's also been part of his school district and sat on his school board in his local area. And we, oh my God, you're the exact person I need right now. Mm-hmm. I need help. And so he's offered his to step forward and help walk through some of the struggles that we're having. As I've been here, I've run into a couple of people who know a lot about real estate and different like commercial properties and how 501c3s work, how nonprofits work. And so I have all kinds of stacks of books that I read, but reading only gets you so far. You need somebody to kind of help walk you through the what if scenarios. And every time I turn around, there's somebody else in this industry that not only is a technician or a business owner, they also know something else. They also know real estate. They also know politics. They also know financing. And they step forward and they're so excited about the project. They come running. They're like, let's help any way I can. Tell me, point me, let me know what I can do. And so we've been incredibly blessed at every step to have more and more of the industry leaders come on board and help build this vision.
I think it's also important, Carm, to know that this is not an advanced auto parts project. While Anthony and I are paid by that company and are loyal to that company, this is an industry project. The school The school is an independent a public school. The funding comes from the per pupil funding from the school district. We aren't dumping a boatload of money into each individual student. We'll have programs of sponsorship and things of that nature, but to get this thing off the ground, we need the support of industry, and that includes all of our vendor partners, all of our large customers, including the mom and pop shops that want to play, including our competitors. We're not going to keep this secret or hidden from anybody in industry that wants to be a part of the solution. And at the end of the day, the idea is not about standing one school up in Colorado Springs to solve the technician shortage problem, because we'll produce 70 or 80 kids a year out of the gate, within 4 or 5 years when we get to that retirement date. Remember that? Okay. When we get to that point where we're graduating that first freshman class, that doesn't even put a scratch in the fender to the problem. But what we can do is learn and prove a model, and then we can scale that to build others. But imagine if we built 40 or 50 of them.
Oh, wow.
That's still not enough kids.
Not even close.
That's still not enough students.
No.
So what we need to do is prove that model, scale it so that we can and share the idea with our competitors and our suppliers so that others can build maybe 20 or 30 of them. But in my vision, we take the model and we share it with vocational education, and we entirely overhaul our education model in America. It's not just overhauling automotive education. It's overhauling education, period.
I sit on an advisory panel for post-secondary, and if I approached them and said, listen, we're going to build this charter school program so that we can feed you students, I think they would figure out, because in most community colleges are public-based. They're graded on the people they put into the workforce in their community, and they live by their numbers. They live by graduation, all that. I would think that you would have more than enough opportunity, but the problem is the money. And so what are you guys doing? I mean, are you out now, point of the plow, champion, getting in front of people and saying, we need your support, we need your money?
I think that's pretty much this was the start. This is the avalanche or the snowball that starts the avalanche here.
All right.
We're going to be hitting the market really hard in the next few weeks. You're going to hear about it everywhere, and we're going to be out in the companies. We're going to be sending out the emails, and we're going to be sending out mailers, and we're going to go out to each of the companies and tell them this is what we need. And Chris hit on a very important part: is this is what we need to start. The industry doesn't have to fund it to run. We've designed it so that it operates just like a public school, so it can continue to operate on its own. But the initial startup to make this happen, it's a bit substantial. But the industry, if they start up this one model, and then we have proof that it works, we have graduation rates, we have students into the workforce rates, and we show that this model works. Like Chris said, it's not about building 100 schools or 20 schools or 50 schools. It's about proving out that, hey, look at, you can take what you currently do right now. You have an automotive program, you have a high school. You just need to combine them together. You just need to bring them together. And once people see that it works, they'll start. Our hope is that they'll start emulating it. They'll start doing it as well. And so we build one here, and it starts spreading out to the schools around the area. We build one on the East Coast, and it spreads out to the schools around the area. We build one on the West Coast, and it spreads. And just like, any wildfire, it's going to keep going and growing and growing. And then we're going to see in the next 10, 15 years, the education system in the United States, we're going to see it get shaken up, get turned upside down, and say, hey, look at, here's a new way that we can meet our students. Let's use our technology. Let's use our skills. Let's truly let industry, let's let all the industries, healthcare industry, the construction industry, the automotive industry, let's let them all back into the school. Bring them back into the seats so that they're helping build the workforce of tomorrow.
When I think about this, first of all, I'm inspired. Thank you for being so articulate and passionate about this. I couldn't ask for a better interview. And when I think about the concept, and I say automotive is just such perfect, industry at the moment in time that we're in with the technology that we have, it is like the perfect test case for this.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Okay, so what should my listener know? What can we do? How do we help?
Well, let's give a shameless self-promotion here. Number one, they can visit our consortium or our effort website, which is www.autoinstitute.org.
Okay.
You have to have the W's there. Our DNS was not installed correctly by our web group, so www.autoinstitute.org. There you'll see an overview of what we've talked about today, and a call to action, a form that you can fill out and complete and share with us your desire to join the effort and how you'd like to help. And we're aggregating all of those responses so that we can reach out to people that want to assist in any way, shape, or form. You can also go, if you want to look at kind of the high-level curricula path that Anthony has created for the school, and that's automotiveinstitute.org, and you'll see there the curricula path for all 6 years, and it kind of gives you an idea of the depth that we're going to provide the students in the way of education. And it's not an automotive school. And Anthony said this once before, and I'll say it again. We're teaching young people to be, number one, really good citizens. So part of our process is to teach them how the game of life works. Number two, they're going to have a clear vision of what they want to do when they grow up. Instead of jumping into a career path and showing up at work the first month and going,
wait a minute, that mom and dad told you were going to be.
Exactly.
Yeah, all right.
And then they go, wow, this isn't quite what I thought it was. It's not like school. With the Institute, school is like work because it is the job. I mean, we're emulating that. And most importantly, they graduate with an associate's degree. They have a job more than likely because of the involvement with the community and with these students in internship and mentorship. They have practical experience that we've already talked to ASC about. The 2 years worth of practical experience that they'll gain will satisfy the work requirement for ASC certifications. So they won't graduate with student certifications. They'll graduate with real certifications. And most importantly, they'll graduate with zero debt. And that's probably the thing that excites me the most about being able to prepare a workforce that can go into life with a great job, a great career opportunity, and not be encumbered with massive student debt that is a burden to them for the rest of their lives.
How are you going to do that?
Public school funding, Carm. It's
Okay.
a high school. It's just like going to high school, except you go for 6 years. We get the public per pupil funding even in their 13th and 14th grade.
Got it.
I think our biggest challenge is Anthony and I need to figure out what we call a 13th and 14th grade high schooler, because they're not going to want to be called high schoolers.
Yeah.
So we're going to come up with something cool.
Why can't they be called freshmen and seniors?
Well, they could be. Well,
Because you have
freshmen,
freshmen and seniors.
Yeah, we have 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th grade.
Those
So-
other two grades are the tough ones because they're in college classes, but they're going to be doing internships. They're 50% of their time is on the job, but they're still high school. They're still part of the high school. They're still a high school student. But like you said, if I'm 19, 20 years old, I don't want to be called a high school student.
I've got an idea. I'm looking at the sign up here. We'll call them remarkable.
You're so nice. I'm very moved by this. I've read some articles. Chris, you and I have had a tiny little discussion. I remember we did the panel at Apex, and you gave me this full-color brochure. I don't even think you saw it at the time. He goes, "Give me that!" Oh, I can't believe and I can't believe I couldn't find it. I'm preparing to come here. I wanted to find that, and I couldn't find it in my Apex folder. But it sounds like you're well aware. You're committed. You're not going anywhere. This is a reality. You've got to open this by 2020 because you've signed the papers, made the commitment. The money's gone from the charter commitment, and then you got to build a building. Well, wow. Anything I can do, anything we can help you with, let's get this website stuff out. And I just wish you all the luck in the world. I think this is the paradigm shift that we need in education.
Yeah, we want to leave it in a better place than we found it, that's for sure.
Wow, how true is that? Anthony Williams, Chris Chesney, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on board to listen and learn from the premier automotive aftermarket podcast. Until next time,